بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله حمدا دائما سرمدا نحمده ونشكره على ما هدانا ونصلي ونسلم على الذي بعث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آله الطاهرين وأصحابه المعصومين المنتجبين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت بقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. يقول الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وعد الله الذين آمنوا منكم وعملوا الصالحات ليستخلفنهم في الأرض كما استخلف الذين من قبلهم وليمكنن لهم دينهم الذي ارتضى لهم وليبدلنهم من بعد خوفهم أمنا. Surah Nur, verse number 55. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has pledged to those who believe and act righteously that He will certainly make them the inheritors of the vicegerent on earth in the land as He made those before them, and will establish their religion and will grant them peace in place of fear. One of the passages in the Holy Quran that, according at least to Shia commentators, is considered to be in relation to the uprising or the coming of Imam al-Mahdi, or the Mahdi revolution. The Sunni scholars may differ as to the meaning of the words, its relevance, or the Sha'n al-Nuzul, but at least for the Shia community is considered to be quite clear. And this is one of the other verses that exist in the Holy Quran. We allude to them or cite them soon, inshallah. Last night, I quickly wrapped up the major point that I wanted to discuss, that I constantly had to divulge and deal with other issues. And that was a characteristic, or how do we establish the criteria and what should be used to judge historical figures as to whether they are worthy of being followed or not, to avoid misinterpretation of Sayyidina Yazid, Qatala Sayyidina Umar. Both of them are on equal par. And tonight I want to move on to another question that was posed on the list and written on the list. That was, Walaikum Assalam wa rahmatullah, the relationship between the uprising of Imam Hussein, or the Karbala, and al-Mahdi uprising, the rising up of Imam al-Mahdi. And there was a follow-up also, kind of an addendum to the first question. Can you explain why or how the ahadith we have regarding when Imam comes, huge number of scholars will be killed or eliminated, it doesn't make sense because these are scholars that supposed to support him, but what is their relationship to this uprising, or negative relationship to the uprising and the challenge that they posed to the revolution or uprising of Al-Mahdi? I don't want to focus primarily on the incident of the whole Al-Mahdi uprising, but I want to say something that on the most fundamental level, the desire to see the end of the world and to see absolute justice prevail and social perfection to exist and happiness to rule over the world is a desire shared by humanity in general. And naturally, other faiths have their own commentary about this natural, intrinsic desire. They may have different interpretation or different narratives, but the basic desire that ultimately a day will come where peace and justice will prevail on earth is commonly accepted by everyone. Christians sometimes refer to it as the establishment of heaven or heavenly garden on earth, or some kind of similar kind of narratives. But if we look at the essence of it, the essence is that desire to establish one day, to see the conflict and the challenges that we have in the world to come to an end, and peace and justice prevails. There are a number of verses in the Holy Quran that talks about that particular day, and وَلَقَدْ كَتَبْنَا فِي الزَّبُورِ مِنْ بَعْدِ الذِّكْرِ إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ يَرِثُهَا عِبَادِيَ الصَّالِحُونَ. That we have written in Zabur, the book that was revealed to Prophet Dawood, the Psalm as they call it, that at the end of the day, the righteous people are going to inherit the earth. And this is some kind of a pledge by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a covenant between those who submit to the command of Allah and righteous, and ultimate goal that they will reach. The notion that one day under the unique leadership of a particular person, even there are agreements and slight disagreement between the Shias and the Sunnis regarding who is going to come, but there is certainly an agreement that one day somebody will come. They may not necessarily agree with the notion that is presented in Shia Islam that it has to be the 12th successor after Imam Hussein, the 12th successor after the demise of the Holy Prophet, or the 9th descendant of Imam Hussein, 9th descendant of Imam Hussein, but they may agree or disagree on that, but the notion itself, it exists. There are a number of ahadith that clearly states and underscores this. One from the Holy Prophet, لَوْ لَمْ يَبْقَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا يَوْمٌ وَاحِدٌ. Even if there is a single day remains to the end of the world. لَطَوَّلَ اللَّهُ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ حتى يبعث أو يبعث فيه رسولا أو يبعث فيه رجلا من ولدي. Somebody from my descendant will come, اسمه اسمي يملأ الأرض قسطا وعدلا كما ملئ ظلما وجورا. رواه الترمذي and Abu Dawud. So this hadith is narrated by Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, as much as we have equivalent to it in our own books. The concept of Mahdi and its significance is because it integrates, number one, the culmination of that human desire that ultimately justice and peace will prevail and truth will prevail, with the end of time which is in the academic language is called eschatology, when the time comes to an end, where the world ultimately is going to wrap up, and the project of creation, creating human being, that to establish justice and peace on earth is established, but not through a direct human intervention, but by intervention of Allah and the agency of this unique figure, as well as the participation of others. Now, this is something that we normally deal with or have dealt with on 15th of Sha'ban, when we talked about the birth of Imam al-Mahdi, the stories about his birth, the ultimate goal and objective of him, and so on. But going back to the question that was posed, the relationship between Qiyam al-Mahdi and Qiyam of Karbala, Thawrat al-Mahdi and Thawrat Karbala. What's the relationship between the two? Now, we can establish one relationship, which, although I have to say it, but I don't believe the person who posed the question intended this relationship. That is what we call the genealogical relationship between Imam al-Mahdi and Imam Hussein sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That Imam al-Mahdi being the descendant of Imam Hussein. And these again have been stated in numerous hadith from both Shias and Sunnis. There is a hadith from the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that in Masjid al-Nabi one day Imam Hussein was sitting next to him and Imam Hassan. So Salman, this is the narrator of this hadith is Salman al-Farsi. The Holy Prophet said something similar, لو لم يبق من الدنيا يوم واحد لطول الله. That if there is only one day left of the life of this project, which is the earth, the creation of the earth, the life of the earth, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to expand the concept of time until somebody comes and that person is going to be from my descendant. So Salman says, I asked the Holy Prophet, what do you mean by descendant? Descendant who? He tapped on the shoulder of Imam Hussein, he said, from his descendant. So this is repeated in a number of hadith. Imam Hussein says the same thing, that the Imam al-Mahdi, the Qa'im al-Mahdi, or the person who's going to come is going to be from my descendant, the ninth descendant. So genealogically, from a Shia point of view at least, this hadith is mutawatir, or the concept is clearly established, and I don't want to delve into it, because the issue of al-Mahdi, a huge amount of literature has been written about it. Fortunately and unfortunately, because we don't have similar amount of literature about the life of the other Imams, but at least fortunately we have enough literature about the life of Imam al-Mahdi, Imam Hussein, little bit Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, and Amir al-Mu'mineen. So fortunately about literature existing about the life of al-Mahdi. The special connection that exists between Ashura and Qiyam al-Mahdi is not just because al-Mahdi is the ninth descendant of Imam Hussein. Is much more intense and profound, that we really need to discuss this a little bit. A slight digression. At the time of Jahiliyyah, when the Holy Prophet came, the Jahiliyyah of Imam Mahdi is considered to be much worse. The Jahiliyyah condition that prevails in society to be much worse than the Jahiliyyah of the time of the Holy Prophet. If the Jahiliyyah of the time of the Holy Prophet was evident in certain features, idol worshipping, disrespect for human life, etc., etc., and corruption and perversion, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq says the Jahiliyyah that Imam al-Mahdi has to deal with is what he calls the tahajjur al-fikr, which is the fossilized mindset. The mindset becomes fossilized. This Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq says the scholars use Quran and its passages to justify their hostility towards the Al-Mahdi and his uprising. Now you see why it is necessary for the Imam to eliminate this kind of scholars, the court scholars, that instead of being the source of stability within the society, they become the source of corruption. To the point that there are hadith that says scholars of the day say this person that claims to be Al-Mahdi has brought a new religion. The religion, Islam, has been deviated from its pure source and pristine essence and principles, to the point that the pristine essence that Imam is bringing back into society is considered by the same scholars that have been given the responsibility of protecting Islam to be a new religion, a bid'ah. There is another hadith. So the notion that Quran being used and the passages of Quran being used to justify ta'wil and tafsir, but right, to justify their position vis-a-vis the Imam. If you go back to the books that have been written about return of Al-Mahdi and Al-Mahdawiyya and the uprising of Al-Mahdi, particularly, I mean, there are few of them, but one of the most simplest is the book that is written by Shaykh Ibrahim about the Mahdawiyya and the concept of Mahdi in Islam. There is a hadith, فَعِنْدَهَا, the sign of Akhir al-Zaman, the sign of the end of time, فَعِنْدَهَا تَكُونُ أَقْوَامٌ يَتَعَلَّمُونَ الْقُرْآنَ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ وَيَتَّخِذُونَهُ مَزَامِيرَ. When the time comes to the close to the end of time, the people of that time, they learn Quran, but the goal is not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The goal is not to learn what Quran says and use Quranic principle to form and define their behavior. What is it for? يَتَّخِذُونَهُ مَزَامِيرَ, for entertainment. Look at Abdul Basit, Manshal, Husari, the rest of the reciters. Huge amount of pomp and ceremony being organized around the world, invited, and every time the person recites a small verse from the Holy Quran, Allah, Allah, Allah. But what happens when he departs? Are we going back to the principles of Quran and allow those principles to form? Or Quran has become nothing but mazamir, form of entertainment? We compete with each other during the month of Ramadan and month of Muharram and other things to bring somebody who could bring in more crowd. The sake is not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's for the sake of for the sake of entertainment, to bring in more crowd. That's the issue. So يَتَّخِذُونَهُ مَزَامِيرَ. There is another hadith, recitation of Quran using a unique melody, but for entertainment, not for acting. There are another hadith that says, if you look at the time of Akhir al-Zaman, imatat al-salat, prayers are dead. What does that mean? As-salatu mi'rajul mu'min. Every prayer is supposed to be an ascension to heaven. From the moment that we say Allahu Akbar, we go through the ritual. And neither God nor ascension, nothing. Imatatul salat, you offer the prayer, but the salat is nothing but some kind of an empty show. Istihlalul kidb, lies within the society. Aklul riba, self-evident. Wal istighfaf bid dima. These days, human life is worth nothing. Another hadith, وَتَحْلِيَةِ الْمَصَاحِفِ وَزُخْرَفَةِ الْمَسَاجِدِ. We print the Holy Quran and we put gold and silver wrapping around it, make it nice and shiny, the best print, all different designs within the Quran itself. Every time the word of Allah is mentioned in one color, the word of Sujda or something else in different color, all these designs are there. And then we pay huge amount of money, we put it in a wrapper and we put it on the mantle, never see it until some occasions come, month of Ramadan or something else. You want to understand what it means? Next Ramadan, when you go to Quran during the Laylatul Qadr, blow little bit of breath on the Quran and see how much dust has acquired on the cover. But tahliyatul masahif, we make it nice and shiny by all designs of gold and silver. Wa zukhrufatul masajid, and then huge mosques. Amirs of Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Qatar, and the rest of them, they have built masjids that they have probably are considered to be part of the wonders of the world. It's not the 7 wonders anymore, this is another one to be added to it. Carpet from around the world. They say every piece of carpet that you see it over there worth thousands of dollars. Mosaic and granite from all over the world. Architects from all over the world. Design outside, replica of Babylon. The 7 heavens of Babylon, or Jannah of Babylon. What about inside? What happens inside the mosque? What happens inside? Nothing. It's there. We don't need to go that far to Dubai, Qatar, Dhabi, or anywhere else. Look at our own masajid around. Apart from the time when we have Usbu' and some commemoration event, let's call it Moharram or Ramadan, the rest of the time you can wander around and see nothing. So Zukhrufat al-Masajid, huge grand mosques are being built. Quran is not used as a book of action. These are, what kind of a mindset allows this to happen and says nothing? A fossilized mindset. This is why what Quran says, the hadith said, Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, tahajjur al-fikr. Amir al-Mu'mineen in a khutbah describes Akhir al-Zaman, the end of time. Calls it Sharrul Azmina, the worst of time. And he gives all the reasons for it. If Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar supposed to be Qawam al-Sharia, as Amir al-Mu'mineen says, bil Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar, there is no Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar in the end of time. The reverse is true. Sometimes people who do Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar are despised, and people do encourage people to do bad. Al-Amr bil Munkar wa Nahy anil Ma'ruf. Reality changes. The uprising of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalallah Ta'ala Faraja, is to correct and remove corruption, dishonesty, tyranny, Dua al-Ahd that we are recommended to recite every morning after Salat al-Subh, حتى لا يظفر بشيء من الباطل إلا مزقه ويحق الحق ويحق. Defines the character of the uprising of al-Mahdi is to destroy all batil and falsehood and establish justice on its place. Isn't this what Hussein salawatullah salam alayhi said when he walked out of Medina? وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُرِيدُ أَنْ آمُرَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَنْهَى عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. The essence of the uprising of Imam Hussein is to destroy the Jahiliyyah that he had to deal with, that Amir al-Mu'mineen in the khutbah that he has when he was elected or he was chosen, he says, أَلَا وَإِنَّ بَلِيَّتُكُمْ قَدْ عَادَتْ. The challenges that you were facing during the life of a Holy Prophet, which was Jahiliyyah, a new form of Jahiliyyah has arrived. And you go to mosque, you offer prayer, but it doesn't matter whether the leading figure is Muawiyah or Ali. So, to stamp out all evils, this is the essence. There is another hadith again from the Holy Prophet. سَيَأْتِي زَمَانٌ عَلَىٰ أُمَّتِي لَا يَبْقَى مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا رَسْمُهُ. Quran. Allah fil Quran. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, don't allow the essence and the principles of Quran to be practiced and acted upon by others while you are holding the book and the paper. لا يسبقنكم بالعمل به غيركم. And then this hadith says, لا يبقى من القرآن إلا رسمه ولا من الإسلام إلا اسمه. Only the outward empty shell of Islam is kept. وهي مساجدهم عامرة وهي خراب من الهدى. Masajids are being organized, but direction, guidance from these masajids suitable to the time and the context that these masajids are there. Masajiduhum amira wa hiya kharabun min al-huda. Masjid at the time of the Holy Prophet was supposed to be the center of activity. Everything, the heart of the community. Economics, you had your economic problem, you went to the mosque. You wanted guidance theologically, you went to the mosque. Spiritual guided, you wanted to the mosque. You wanted assistance socially, you went to the mosque. Now, masajids are all wonders, equal to the 7 wonders of the world, but there is no guidance from them. It has become a sightseeing tour. When somebody visits, say, what city in the Gulf, they take them, the dignitaries, they take them to this masajid. Oh, wow. That's the masajid, the role of masajid. Now, one thing else. وَفُقَهَاءُ ذَلِكَ الزَّمَانِ. This is فُقَهَاءُ ذَلِكَ الزَّمَانِ شَرُّ فُقَهَاءِ الْأَرْضِ. If the faqih, the religious scholar, is unable to guide the society, lead the society forward. Remember, we talked a few nights ago the concept of the good leader versus the bad leader. The positive and the negative effect. Sometimes even worse, that the faqih becomes the minister of the court, like Abu Hurairah signs only to condone the act of the tyrannical leader. Muawiyah wanted to fly pigeon. He looks at Abu Huraira and says, have you heard anything from the Holy Prophet regarding the recommendation of flying pigeon? He said, yes, I just remember the hadith. And Rasulullah, this kind of court ministers, we see it around. The relationship with Iran is bad. We have the ministers of the court day in, day out against Shias, against Muslims, against Iran is the worse than the Jews and the Zionists. But as soon as a command comes that we are going to go through a rapprochement with Iran, subhanallah, muqallib al-qulub. Immediately the whole thing changes. Marhaba. وفقهاء ذلك الزمان شر فقهاء تحت السماء منهم خرجت الفتنة وإليهم كان. They are the source of all the problems that we have. This tahajjur al-fikri, the fossilized mindset that we have, and the Holy Imam and the uprising is supposed to come and deal with this and change it 180 degrees. So the relationship between Karbala and the Qiyam al-Mahdi is based on not the genealogical factor. It's based on the goals and objectives. If Karbala's goal and objective could be defined, number one, to uncover and display the corruption and the social destruction that has, or disunity that has become prevalent in society, so is Imam al-Mahdi. Mahdi uprising is going to do the same thing. If the Karbala uprising was a struggle to establish a proper governance on earth, or proper system that would protect the poor and the needy and establish justice, that's exactly what Imam al-Mahdi wants to do. يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضِ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا كَمَا مُلِئَ الْأَرْضُ. A huge change has to be. طلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي رسول الله, طلب الإصلاح here. No wonder when we talk about, when we look at our ahadith, when we recite dua al-Nudba, dua al-Nudba is primarily dua for Imam Zaman. Within the dua, we talk about أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء. Links, couples it with Karbala. We recite Ziyarat Ashura, which is primarily for Imam Hussein. فَأَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ أَنْ يَرْزُقُنِي طَلَبَ ثَارَكَ مَعَ إِمَامٍ مَنْصُورٍ. You see how the time of the birth of Imam al-Mahdi, we recite something about Imam Hussein. The birth of Imam Hussein, we recite something about Imam al-Mahdi. Linking and coupling these two uprisings together. In Ziyara al-Nahiya al-Muqaddasa, which is narrated by 12 Imam given to Shaykh Mufid, again we see Imam talking about Ashura. If I was not at that time present to help you, فَلَأَنْدُبَنَّكَ صَبَاحًا وَلَا مَسَاءً وَلَأَبْكِيَنَّ لَكَ لَبَدَلِ الدُّمُوعِ دَمًا. Reminds the concept of the martyrdom of Imam Hussein, and the fact that the role is Ashura, Ghadir, Ashura, and Al-Mahdi, they are all connected together. Imam Hussein and the uprising of Ashura was the first step towards ultimately the establishment of justice there. So this is the link, the coupling, the relationship between. It's the goal. They share, irrespective of genealogical relationship, they share the goal. Both of them, one succeeded, one didn't succeed, the other one, inshallah, will succeed soon. The other one that didn't succeed because people that should have provided the assistance for his success stepped back. This time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is waiting to see whether we are going to do anything about it. Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq says, numerously, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to terminate and end the time of occultation, the major occultation, and send back the Imam. You people are not ready to receive it. Imam is not going to come back and miraculously change, because we still have to operate with change of history. Inna Allah la yughayyiru ma biqawmin hatta yughayyiru ma bi anfusihim. We need to prepare the ground. If we are not ready to receive, this project has to succeed. This time it has to succeed. This is why we talk about 313, 330, or some metaphorical numbers that would stand up and deal with it. Imam al-Mahdi talks about the issue of corruption. Imam Hussein talked about the issue of corruption. Imam al-Mahdi talks about ta'til al-hudud. Imam Hussein talks about ta'til al-hudud. أحلوا حرام الله وحللوا أحلوا حرام الله وحرموا حلاله. That's what Imam Hussein talks about. Exactly the same thing that Imam al-Mahdi. So it's the coupling and the relationship between the two is the goal and objectives. Something that Imam Hussein made it clear in the slogans and the messages that he had from leaving from Medina until he got to Karbala, even on the day of Karbala. But it didn't work. This time, it seemed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is determined to make sure that this project has a successful outcome. For the second part of the question that I asked, what is the relationship and how can we justify the killing and the slaughtering of, or destroying the establishment of a balance and sound governance, demand purging the sources of corruption that have destabilized the community in the past. Essentially, so long as these people, the experience of Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salamu alayhi, read his life, the governance that were given power by other khulafa before, Imam sends emissary to Kufa, the governor of Kufa stands up against Ali. There is no possibility of repeat in history. These fuqaha, وَفُقَهَاءُهُمْ شَرَّ فُقَهَاءُ الْأَرْضِ that Holy Prophet talks about, will never be allowed again to disrupt and destabilize society and cause huge amount of problems. Now, when this project and the whole end is coming, I said that there are two issues here that critical. One is the establishment of justice, and then the second one is the end of time. Within our terminology, within a short period of the Holy Imam coming back and establishing order. By the way, there are various ahadith that says even Imam Hussein comes back, Isa comes back, and others come back to stand shoulder to shoulder with the Imam and work for the establishment of justice, that it was their goal, but it wasn't achieved. They want to see it. Now, when that will be, we don't know. But certainly, we have responsibility during this time of ghiba, or during the time of occultation, that certainly must discharge our responsibilities if we want something done. Inshallah, we may be privileged or given the opportunity to witness in dua al-ahd, which is refreshment of commitment with Imam al-Asr every morning after Salat al-Subh. Allah, arani at-tal'at al-rashida. Please give me the opportunity to see the face and be among his followers and standing up with them. Go and read. Make it a habit. Dua al-ahd every morning, and ziyarat al-Nahiya al-Muqaddasa every evening before you go to sleep. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the privilege of being among the true followers of Ahlul Bayt, and if we are worthy of the presence of the Imam, grant us that privilege of being there. There are some people, the concept of Raj'a, which is associated with this, that there are some grand, pure spirits that they are given the opportunity to rise and be part of the numbers that would support and assist the Imam, inshallah. Please join me in reciting again Surah Ayah al-Mujib for the benefit of those who have difficulties and challenges in their life, particularly those who are sick, ill, and in need of prayer for speedy recovery. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه اللهم شافي مرضانا واغفر أمواتنا واقض حوائج المحتاجين. For those people who have various challenges and difficulties in their life, oh Lord, grant them peace, and if they are sick, speedy recovery, inshallah. Let's end by reciting Surah Al-Fatiha ala ruh amwatina jami'an qabla as-salat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.